Welcome and thank you for joining me today. Let's read together from the Arch Book series, or our art book series here. We are reading from the 19th set, so one of the first 20, and it is under this category, this particular set of 3 categories: the parables of Jesus, Proverbs, important things to know, and books of the Old Testament. This story that I have here is Jesus and Bartimaeus, the 4th book of the 19th set of our art book series. So we know Bartimaeus, some of us, and he is just going to be just shortly lived here in the gospel, specifically in Matthew, and as well as no, it's in Mark, and Mark 10 is where we're going to be reading from in this story. And it is also going to be just a chapter, just a section here of the of Mark. All right. And this is going to be maybe in the category here of important things to know. The things here that we learn from Jesus's ministry here when he was during his 3-year ministry, healing, helping, teaching, and spreading the good news of the Heavenly Father, of the Lord's kingdom to everyone. Well, here are the important things to know is where I think this story is going to be going towards. And this is Bartimaeus. He is blind, as we may know. But just remembering here that Bartimaeus is someone who was physically blind, but he may not have been spiritually blind, for he acknowledged Jesus. You'll see here in the front inside cover, he's reaching out to Jesus. He's holding on to Jesus. Again, taken from Mark 10, 46 to 52. Our children's version today is written by Neil Bulk, illustrations by Jim Cummins, published in 1982 by the Concordia Publishing House, the usual publishing company. Now, I love the front inside cover. It has so many beautiful watercolors, and you'll see here throughout the book as well. So what we have here depicted is Bartimaeus with his stick. Because he is blind, he needs his walking stick. So here it is. On the first page, we will read together. The story is about a man. Bartimaeus was his name. He lived right near to Jericho with neither wealth nor fame. For Bartimaeus was so poor, a job he could not find. There was no work that he could do because this man was blind, and he was blind since birth. Again, they were passing by Jericho, Jesus and his disciples, and they come across, we will see eventually in the story here, Bartimaeus. Now, God had allowed this to happen. God is in full control. But why would he allow such a thing to happen is the question here, right? Why would he allow this man to just be blind until this age of him being now this young man? But unfortunately, because he was blind, he could not see and therefore could not find a good job here. Well, you see, when Bartimaeus lived, all a blind man could do was go into the streets and beg for money and for food back in these days. There was no aid from government or schools to take him in, so he had to depend upon what others gave to him. So what others gave to him, he had to just beg. He just had to be at the mercy of those around him. But he particularly goes to Jericho, this fortified city, to just, see if someone can be nice to give him some money, some provision here. So we know here, though, that he is not totally having any other health issues besides the fact that he is blind. And so yes, he is blind, but he can walk, he can talk, he can do things. He's still well fed, he's still in pretty good condition. So every morning of his life, Bartimaeus would go and beg for gifts beside the road that led to Jericho. All day he would call out to those whom he could hear walk by, "Have pity on me, I am blind." Have pity was his cry. So consistent was his cry as well that people got to know who he was. Know him as Bartimaeus, the blind guy. Just know him as this man that is very, very consistent and very fervent and very much, bold and really begging at the same time. Well, he did not cease to ask for help, and ultimately he did not cease on the hope and the faith in the Lord that he will provide through these people that walk by. I mean, he is just doing what he can as a blind man at the end of the day. Some days were pretty good for him, and folks would pass his way. Their hearts were touched with sympathy. Before him gifts they'd lay, while others would be very lean with nothing much to show. With heavy heart and empty hand, back to his home he'd go. And so again, back in these days, you'll see here he's being happy. He's now accepting this wonderful, generous gift of this man and the wife, perhaps here. His fellow lady neighbor, and they are giving him this food to eat and just coins, money. Back in the days there was a lot of hospitality, so maybe this was not as unusual as it is maybe nowadays in our local city. Well, here it is. People know that he's blind, but yet they had a hardened heart. They had a heavy heart. They might have even had more than these people, but they still walked on by. And they should know who he is if they are local as well. Well, they may have not even thought of wanting to be generous towards this Bartimaeus. And it also is just a pause, a way to stop and reflect to see one's heart, what one would do in the situation, especially if they would pass by him multiple times. And it just goes to show, here is another kind of mirror. Here is another kind of self-reflection test one can have of their heart posture towards this man who they know is legitimately blind, who is this local guy, and who just doesn't have like places to go to ask for help besides on this road, right? What are they going to do, right? As a group here, as people who probably pass by him here and there regularly.